Today, trillions of dollars circle the globe in milliseconds. It's a digital ecosystem where value glides across borders without friction, without permission, and without physical weight. But the architect behind one of the largest financial networks in the world didn't start in a frictional environment. He was born in 1977 in Lianyangong, China. The city's name translates to port connected to the clouds, but the reality on the ground was dense and industrial. This was a shipping hub built for coal and iron ore. His parents were both educators. In the years immediately following the Cultural Revolution, being an educated family meant carrying the label of bourgeois intellectuals. That political designation carried severe consequences, immediately stripping away the family's security. By the time he was 12 years old, he had been forced to pack up and move to at least 12 different places. When the rules of your society are actively weaponized against you and your address changes every few months, you learn a hard lesson early on. You stop relying on social connections or local reputations to survive, because all of it can be wiped away overnight. In 1989, the family managed to emigrate, joining his father in Vancouver. The initial shock of that transition was purely sensory. He tasted fresh, cold milk from a carton for the very first time. Having grown up on milk powder and rationing, that single glass tasted like absolute systemic abundance. But that feeling of plenty masked a stark economic reality. The family lived in subsidized housing because his parents' combined income barely covered basic expenses. His mother, restricted by her limited English, took a job in a sewing factory, coming home every night exhausted with her fingers permanently stained from fabric dye. For the 12-year-old boy, the friction took a different form: language. He had studied textbook English in China, but sitting in a Canadian classroom trying to decipher fast-paced conversational slang was an impenetrable puzzle. He sat there, nodding along, desperately trying to read body language because he understood maybe one word in 10. A plane ticket can physically move you across an ocean, but it doesn't grant you immediate opportunity. If you can't communicate clearly and you can't participate in the local economy, you are still trapped by borders. They are just invisible. What kept him afloat was mathematics. The language of numbers doesn't care about your accent or where you were born. He could demonstrate his intelligence entirely through objective problem solving. The correct answer spoke for itself. At 14, he found another system that operated on pure logic: McDonald's. Flipping burgers and counting change followed strict workflows. That kitchen environment entirely ignored his lack of cultural familiarity, as long as he showed up on time and hit his targets accurately. These experiences laid down a lasting blueprint in his mind. Human environments are subjective, full of unspoken rules and biases. Logic-based systems are impartial. They offer a safe haven where your output is judged perfectly fairly based on the work you produce. The ultimate extension of that blueprint arrived when his father spent a massive portion of their limited savings on a 286 DOS computer. It was a severe financial hit, but his father made a calculated bet. Technical capability would create social mobility in a way that personal connections never could. Teaching himself to program from library books, he quickly saw that software was a literal mechanism of power. He could build entire systems using nothing but his own intellect, his time, and the machine in front of him. He became obsessed. He spent hours writing simple programs, deliberately breaking lines of code, and figuring out how to piece them back together. Within that machine, he had absolute sovereignty. He could shape his own environment and dictate exactly how it functioned. In the offline world, success often hinged on knowing the right people or having the right pedigree. The architecture of code is an entirely meritocratic ecosystem. If the code works, it runs. If it's broken, it fails. The builder holds all the leverage. By 1995, he was ready to leave Vancouver. He packed his bags for McGill University in Montreal, a city 3,000 miles away, where the winters are so violently cold that downtown pedestrians navigate through a network of underground tunnels. He was running an active experiment on himself. He needed to know if the resilience he'd built was actually portable, or if it only functioned inside the familiar immigrant bubble he had grown up in. The test yielded a clear result. The framework carried over entirely. The exact same methods of observing unwritten rules, finding the underlying logic, and building quiet competence worked just as seamlessly in Montreal as they had in Vancouver. Moving 12 times before turning 12 looks like a severe disadvantage on paper. In practice, it served as an extreme, decade-long training program. It taught him how to rapidly construct temporary routines and thrive when the ground underneath him was completely unstable. That supreme adaptability became his core competitive advantage. Over the next 2 decades, he moved seamlessly across borders, taking jobs in Tokyo, New York, and Shanghai, climbing through the ranks of the volatile global technology sector. Then he entered the cryptocurrency frontier. It was an industry with zero tenure and zero established precedent. The rules were being written, debated, and rewritten in real time. It was an environment of chaotic uncertainty, exactly the kind of environment he had been trained for since childhood. That 12-year-old boy who found refuge in mathematics is Changpeng Zhao, known as CZ. He took those early lessons in logic and systems and used them to build Binance, a platform engineered to handle trillions of dollars in global transactions. The drive to build a global, trustless financial network grew directly from a childhood spent navigating unstable human systems. He had learned early on that when political borders fail and environments shift, math and code remain the only true forms of freedom.